Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the series premiere of Sakamoto Days. Great series premiere. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we get a little time in our opening, because I went into this series knowing what the story was going to be about. Sakamoto, greatest assassin ever who ends up retiring. So I went into this knowing that, and obviously the opening few minutes gives us an opportunity to see how he is. And I don't know what I expected, because I watched only I think the teaser trailer. I've only seen a little bit of it because I've avoided watching too many trailers or whatnot. So I didn't know how wild this series was going to go, and I guess I should have expected there is going to be a straight up it was never going to be a grounded thing, sure, but it's a lot more superpowered than I thought it was, especially when you get introduced to Shin, the literal psychic. But I'm curious to find out what that range is, because it seems like he has to, at least based on what they say in this episode, he has to be fairly close, at least within a certain distance to be able to read your mind. It's not all encompassing, he has to be in a certain radius. But anyway, it's okay, so that already kind of gave me what time it was. That we're having straight up superpowers. I mean, to be fair, doing what Sakamoto does is insane. Blocking and deflecting bullets, being able to literally break them. Once again, we're talking about crazy enhanced human being things, which I'm curious if that's going to be Sakamoto saying. Is he does he actually have any powers, or is it just no, he's pushed beyond the limits of human excellence? He's peak human condition, and he's able to push himself beyond that, or is there something more to his constitution? Obviously, it's just the first episode. I should also note I've never read the manga, so this is my first time being introduced to this story. So I'm curious, I'm sure we'll learn about it later on, but how Sakamoto got to where he is. Does he have family? Was he adopted? Because, being a hitman and everything, it feels like it could easily be a, oh, you were adopted into this and raised into this, or, maybe you were an orphan, or, maybe you never knew your family, maybe you did and you lost them and you grew up in this, this world. Did he, I think the main overarching, there is one major organization that he belonged to. There's a handful of organizations, I'm sure, but I think I've come across a video on YouTube talking about the different organizations and who's the strongest. Obviously, I didn't watch it because I didn't want spoilers, but I think Sakamoto belonged to a very specific organization full of hitmen. So it's a lot of questions that we'll ultimately have to, I'll ultimately have to wait to watch the rest of the series to kind of get a better understanding of this world. But I also, for whatever reason in my head, assumed that Sakamoto was out of the game a lot longer than he was, because initially I was he was out of it for a while, then eventually got married and then had a kid. But then one of the times we see him in his younger days, or his more fit days rather, we see him walking by Shin, and I was oh, Shin looks kind of like how he does present day. So I was so this wasn't that far in the past. And I was looking at his daughter, she's fairly young. So him and his wife must have had their child fairly soon after getting married. So I was so he's only been out of the game a little while. And that was my, I said, that was my misconception. I thought he was out of the game for a while before he got married. But it's no, obviously getting married is what took him out of the game. That was probably a lot clearer in other stuff. But I said, that was just my own preconceived misunderstanding. But yeah, he's only been out of the game for 5 years at best, because Shin says that's the last time he saw Sakamoto. And we're introduced to him. I was oh, you're a fanboy. But then we find out, well, not only you're a fanboy, you actually used to work with him. Granted, we don't know how often they work together. Were they continuously working together, or did they get paired together on different points? Because the organization, the group that wants Sakamoto dead later on, because they make the whole point of Sakamoto, had every gangster, group scared, but also he had so many people's admiration, Shin's. So my point, I was thinking, did they work for that particular guy that wants Sakamoto dead later? Or is he a subsect of an organization that they belong to? Or is it a thing of Shin, like I said, it might be a thing of Sakamoto was high ranking. He brought on Shin to work with him a couple times when they had to collaborate with that particular group he was working for, but they were never officially partners continuously. It's like we probably work together from time to time, but never like continuously. Once again, a lot of speculation I'm throwing. Um, I'm also curious how much his wife knows, because there's so much that goes down in this that she kind of brushes off. She never questions. I'd assume he told her at some point in time, and I'm curious how much their daughter knows. Granted, she's fairly young, but I don't know. Like the way his wife acts, she's kind of like, it seems she knows. She knows what's up. And that makes me curious. So like, are we going to find out, is she somebody significant in her own right? Like, is she someone that kind of left the past of her own behind? Or we're going to find out that she's just a normal woman, because it's that thing of, oh, we're two people trying to forget our past? Or are you just a normal woman of like, yeah, this is just, you just met that right person and they happen to change your life forever. So like I brought up earlier about his parents, I'm curious about her parents too. Like, does he have to deal with in-laws or not? Is there any particular reason why he kind of let himself go? I mean, it's like, well, I mean, regardless of not being in peak shape like he used to, it doesn't change anything. He's still, I wonder if we're going to find out, like, maybe he's not as strong or as fast or agile or as quick as he used to be, but he's still, like, because he was top of the top, even having lost a step or two, he still outpaces a lot of people. I'm curious if we're going to find out that, or we're going to find out that gaining all that weight had no effect on his skills whatsoever. I'm curious to see how that plays out, whether that kind of gets explored or not. He's also a man of very few words, which I think, because when he was talking, I was like, his mouth isn't moving, but I completely forgot. Shin's literally a psychic, and it wasn't until later on I was like, all right, that's why like his mouth wasn't really moving. He wasn't talking out loud, and that's why I had that reverberation on like that effect on the dialogue when he was speaking, because it was like, yeah, it was in his own head. It was like, right. He knows Shin, so he knew like, okay, this way no one else is picking up on me saying all this. I could just say it in your head and make it perfectly clear where I stand. I love that. Like Shin at first is kind of like, oh, I get it. He's in disguise. He's laying low. He's playing this, this schluppy guy. But it's like, no, he's a good neighbor. People come to him. He's part of the community, like helping cut down an overgrown tree, helping this woman feed her child, and he's just like doing everything he can to help people, which is like, oh, that's really sweet. And I'm curious, that's his way to kind of is it redemption for the lives he's taking? Because it's not like he's not in like a Rurouni Kenshin state right now, where like, if you've never read or watched Rurouni Kenshin's whole thing was, I keep a reverse, oh god, what was it called? Reverse blade. Was it just called Reverse Blade Sword? Jesus, it's been so long since I've seen Rurouni Kenshin. But yeah, like he doesn't kill people anymore because, he was bloodthirsty and just murked everyone. But we see later on, Sakamoto isn't afraid. I mean, it seems like he straight up murdered those guys. So it's not like he's pacifist about it, but it's just like, it's going to always be in like, I'm always going to wait for you to strike first, but I'm always going to be quick to counter when the time comes. But obviously Shin was disappointed in Sakamoto, but at the same time, he's still like, oh my god, he's so cool. He's still the greatest. Even if he's kind of let himself go, but he gets the orders of like, if you can't bring Sakamoto back into the fold, you have to kill him. And it's like, if you don't, someone else will. And for Shin, it's like, you're the person that I admired more than anyone in the world. So it's like, if it's going to be anyone, it should be me. And when he ultimately does, Sakamoto easily dispatches of him, blocking his bullet, or at least blocking it enough to slow it down and change the trajectory of it with like a cough drop, and then using it with a rubber band like a powerful slingshot. It's just like, Jesus, throwing food at the dude, and it's just like easy outclassing him in just in every shape and form. That's what I thought was so, I mean, I was about to say, like, what Sakamoto was capable of, but you hadn't really seen him cut loose, and I doubt this is even us seeing him cut loose, but you'd assume that he lost a step or two, but even you recognize, like, yeah, I was probably wrong to think like that. You got knocked out, you wake up, and his entire family is treating you to food, and they're like a full-course meal and everything. He's initially thinking it's poison, but then he tastes it, and it's the most delicious, warm, whole soulful thing that he's felt in so long, and it makes him realize what Sakamoto is doing. It's like, you left us all behind to protect the moments you have, So I was like, that's sweet. And so he was going to his boss to be like, yo, I'll sacrifice my life if it means leaving Sakamoto alone. But reading his boss's mind, he's like, I knew you were never going to go along with it. I just had to confirm. And so it's like, right, if you're going to get in my way, so it leads into a shootout with everyone just like, they bringing out all the guns, literally like fired a damn bazooka or rocket launcher at him. Jesus. Once again, he's not to the same level as Sakamoto, even by the faintest degree, but his psychic ability does, like being able to read minds, does give him an edge. I'm curious, is it just going to stop at telepathy, or will his psychic abilities eventually expand to other stuff? Because he never utilized anything else in this episode other than the mind reading, so maybe telepathy is all he can do, or maybe as the story progresses he eventually develops other psychic abilities like telekinesis or something like that. We'll see. But yeah, Sakamoto shows up to save the day, which I also love that the convenience store is stockpiled. So I'm like, once again, there's no way you got all that set up and your wife doesn't know anything. She probably turns a blind eye to a lot of it, knowing like, hey, you got to do what you got to do. But I'm curious to see those conversations in those moments, and maybe we'll flash back to those 5 years of like, you know, how that all worked out, what those conversations were. Maybe they'll focus on them, maybe they won't. But yeah, he's got a full-blown arsenal stashed away, and it's like, I guess you always want to keep, because the store is his work and home, so you always want to keep your arsenal ready just in case, because he probably always knew the day would come when someone would come after him. It is interesting that they waited 5 years though, so that makes me wonder, Shin might think he's the first person that's tracked down Sakamoto, but maybe he's never hidden. Maybe he's always been out in the open and other people have tried, but he's already stomped them out type of situation. I don't know. But yeah, showed up. I love that he initially came to the showdown with just a stun gun. And yeah, chopsticks, catching bullets, flinging stuff at people. It's just nuts, the stuff he's able to do. The whole crane situation where he like swings on it, kicks some people, wraps it around them, and then like literally uses it to toss them into like a waste bin. 3 people unloading bullets at him, and him like pulling out some, I think they're retractable knives, and he sliced them up, and it's just like, yeah, that was so effortless and so easy. So, and then the episode ends with Sakamoto offering Shin a job. So it's like, yeah, you're going to work for me. And it's kind of really sweet immediately that Sakamoto's daughter, I'm curious what her and Shin's relationship is going to be. Is he going to be kind of like almost like a big brother to her? There are going to be some other characters we meet who are, I think, in a similar boat as Shin. I don't know if those other 2 characters, we see them in the outro. I knew about the girl, the black-haired dude with like the bandages on his face. I wasn't aware of him, but I knew about like the person who seems to have like red hair. I knew about her. So I wonder, are they also sent to kill Sakamoto, or is it situations that they're involved in? Because my thinking was stuff goes down in the hitman criminal world, and Sakamoto gets dragged into it, and then like he ends up kind of finding strays along the way, and kind of taking them in. You know, maybe he has a special affinity to Shin because he recognizes what Shin was trying to do, because he overheard everything because he bugged his gun. It's like, this guy's pretty good. He doesn't just let stuff slide. He's well prepared. I wasn't top of my game for a very long time for nothing. So I really like the ending the most, like the ending theme the most, because I just think it's just super cute, and just the images they show. And like I said, it kind of showcases like not only Shin being really close to Sakamoto and his family, but it also seemed like those other 2 are like close to his daughter as well. So that's why I'm like, are they kind of like, do they kind of fill the void of like big siblings to Sakamoto's daughter? And I wonder, does Sakamoto look at them as friends, or does he look at them as kind of his pseudo children as well? I'm curious how he view it, because we actually I don't know how old Sakamoto is, because obviously he had white hair even when he, grayish silverish hair even when he was younger. To be fair, that was like 5 years ago, so I don't know if Sakamoto was like in his mid 30s, late 30s, early 40s, whatever the case may be. All in all, it just seems like a fun time. Obviously, when it's the first episode, so got your typical shonen feel to it. The thing this series immediately makes me think of is like, I think of like just tonally speaking and just kind of story wise, it makes me think of the manga and anime series Black Cat. Kind of gives me because of the hitman element of it all, and you not being necessarily the same hitman you once were, kind of makes me think of Katekyo Hitman Reborn, which I had to think for a second because I was like, there was something I compared to Reborn recently, and I think it was probably Mission Yosakura Family, which there's a little bit of that, I'm sure. We probably won't be having like, probably won't be the heavy romantic angle that Mission Yosakura Family has, but still, like, it's in that same vein. I actually looked it up too because I was curious. The mangaka is Yuto Suzuki, and I believe, just what I googled, this is his only current published series. So it's kind of like he's working on this and nothing else currently. So probably won't work on anything else until after this series is done, which at the time of recording this, it is still ongoing. So but I mean, obviously, we're going to be getting a lot of this, which I'm very, very excited about because I'm curious to see where this goes. Like I said, in typical shonen fashion, it's going to start off a little like actiony and fun, but probably as we go on, we start doing our typical shonen thing of, yeah, like this thing that seems so lighthearted and fun at the beginning and just actiony and fun. Turns out, yeah, there's some like maybe darker elements to it. I don't know. This seems like it's probably a series. I mean, it's bloody and there's some darkish elements just in the introduction we've gotten so far, so I'm sure there's more that'll get dived into with some of these backstories, with some of these characters and situations and circumstances. But once again, that's pure speculation based off of other stuff I've watched and seen, kind of making me draw those conclusions. But we'll ultimately have to wait to see what the series has in store for us. I'm very excited to see where it takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.